Welcome to another episode of Room for a Podcast. Of course, I'm Brittany, and I have another amazing guest on today's episode, Coach Rees. How you doing, Coach Rees?
What up? I'm struggling today. I'm not gonna
You
lie to you.
struggling?
Yeah. Yeah. In the moment today for the moment for the next couple hours and then I'll be better. But you just caught me in the midst of it and I want to make sure I showed up and am as authentic as I can be. So that's how I am. How are you?
Honestly, I'm glad you said this, said that. You're just being honest about it, because same here. But again, I know like it's only the moment, and this
Yeah.
too shall pass.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I'm still glad to have this episode record. Get this interview going to know your story, your background, your history, and where you're going. I find most of my guests, like the people that I don't know personally, I find most of them like on like TikTok. They have like
Mhm.
strong messages on TikTok or Instagram or whatever. And I came across your one of your posts, and I instantly I reached out before, and I did
Mhm.
that 8 minute power session,
Yeah.
and it turned into be like what 20 minutes, but it was all good information.
Yeah.
So, Coach Rees, how did you even get into coaching? Most people, it's not they kind of like stumble upon it and
Mhm.
then realize like, oh, this is my gift. So what's your story? How did you get into coaching?
Word. So, one, thank you for having me. And one, obviously tapping in with the energy given session, and it turned into, like you said, a full blown conversation, which turned into this. So grateful to be here, nonetheless. Coaching for me, coaching was my calling. I had my first official like coaching position at 15, but before that, I knew I wanted to coach because I knew I was born to be a leader, and because of that it was something I like dived in head first. So to go a little bit further backwards, I started coaching basketball because I was a basketball player. So I couldn't even tell you when I started hooping. I just hooped like my whole life. I can't remember life without being a hooper. And
Yeah.
so, but at the root of it, my mom just instilled purpose in me. So I like to say I have purpose privilege. And so from a young age, I just knew that I was, above and not below. I was the head and not the tail, right? This too shall pass. Like those were things that were put into my mind at a really early age. And so reading the Bible and stuff, I really fell in love with Proverbs. All of the leadership concepts, the human development, the like all of those wisdom and different things. Like I really fell in love with that aspect. And I was not a good student in high school. And so there wasn't really a subject that I enjoyed in high school, unfortunately, except for just hooping. And I learned how to type. So for me, the things that drew me was obviously being a hooper. And then getting into coaching eventually. But people would always tell me, like, oh, Reese, I love when you speak. I love if you had a church, I would go and you should do this and da da da. But my mom just empowered me in a lot of different ways of you should write that stuff down. You should do this. You should record it. Like just flooded me with anytime I did something that aligned with what she thought was a gift or a talent and my purpose, she just affirmed it. And
Yeah.
then I saw that I had that same knack for other people. And I just did it. And then I recognized like, yo, not everybody has the same purpose privilege is what I call it. And that is when I just was like, I just want to pour into people. I love people. I want to pour into people. And something that's actually kind of funny is my first tattoo says change negative mindset, have positive life. And I got that at 15. So 15 is a really important kind of age for me because a lot of stuff started to happen when I was like, this is the type of person that I want to be. I want to make sure that I understand my mindset. I didn't understand the brain at that point, but I
Yeah.
understood that my mindset was going to dictate how I went about and lived out life. So, from a coaching sense, how I got into it, I knew it, and I started coaching at fifth grade girls basketball team at the YMCA as a sophomore in high school. And my mom drove me to practice, and I was like, I love this. I love leading. I love teaching. I love being able to encourage people and all of that stuff. And I was a captain on every basketball team I've been on, and so again, I just fell in love with leadership and fell in love with bringing people together and empowering other people to see like that you were born to do dope things. And I wanted to be a part of helping people see that come to fruition.
Okay. You started early. It's pretty good. Most
Yeah.
people that have that gift or that knack, but they don't really embrace it or notice it until later
Mhm.
on in life. But you're
Mhm.
15 years old and like, hey, this is my thing. I need to, take it and run with it. And it's
Yeah.
amazing that your
Yeah.
mom was super supportive.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why, right, I call it purpose privilege, because there was other aspects and factors, and when I look back on my story of things that, really hit. And I used to wear a chain that had the number 1 on it. And it's because that's usually all you need is one person to believe in you. And not everybody has that parental figure to do it. And so I was like, I want to be that person that believes in other people. But
Mhm.
now that I've started to learn the brain that much more, like, you need one other person and you. Like,
Yeah.
you won't be able to amount to anything. I just made a video about this the other day, but you won't. It doesn't matter how many people believe in you if you don't believe in yourself. And so through my evolution involvement over the last few years and really learning more about people and the brain and how we grow and how humans develop and all that stuff, I'm like, yo, like, if you the human ain't about it, and if you're not moving in this way and taking action, it's none of it is gonna matter. So it doesn't matter how dope of a coach I am, how great my video is, or whatever it is. If you don't put in the work, none of it's going to matter. And so that's why the name of my coaching firm is You-ish, is because I really want people to double down on themselves. Yes, create a village, right? Yes, do those, be a part of masterminds and have friends, because iron sharpens iron, and we're created for people. And you need all of it matters, but none of it's going to matter if you yourself, right, aren't doubling down on you, believing in you, doing the things to develop your personal efficacy and all of that. So that's what really just makes my heart go, is helping people. Really, it's I want to help people know that they're worthy of investing in themselves. So yeah.
All good stuff. Everything you just said. I like how you were able to, like, I'm sure you could talk about this for hours, but
Mm.
basically you put it all in what 3 minutes, 2 minutes. That's a gift in itself.
Thank you.
Um, so you said you had a parental figure and you want to be that person for other people,
Hmm.
and you started to like learn about the brain and humans and emotions and all that, the
Hmm.
physiology. So like, did you go to school for it, or did you like just pick up books and read?
Yeah.
Like, how did that go about?
Great question. So again, not a good high school student. Nothing. The only thing I remember in high school was learning how to type, which I'm glad, because I just finished a dissertation, right? Like, if I didn't learn how to type, so that was really the only connection in that piece. But coming out of high school, I want to be a firefighter, and I ended up going to like firefighting camp and did a bunch of different things for it. Like, that was going to be my path. So I played collegiate basketball. I went to community college at first because I didn't know. So I
Yeah.
have a heavy heart for student athletes, which I haven't talked about at all really on my social media, but I will coming soon. But that's where my heart really lies. Is came out, didn't really know much, wasn't highly recruited outside of community colleges. Um, Went to a CC, had an amazing coaching staff, but I almost failed out my first year. I had a 1.95 GPA because, again, I didn't know how to be a student.
Was
Nobody
that with
taught me.
effort? Was that with effort or without effort? I'm just curious.
I love that because nobody has ever asked that question. I'm open about it. Like,
Yeah.
I've had a 1.95 and nobody has ever said that piece. Um, it it was with the effort that I thought was good enough.
Okay.
That's the unfortunate part. And I'm looking forward to getting this, because I'm like, yo, like, that's it. Like, it was with the effort that I thought was good enough, which is why when I got my grades, I was like, huh? I thought what I was doing was good enough.
Yeah.
I thought that what I was, because I've been doing this the last umpteen years of my, academic career. So
Hmm.
I wasn't doing anything different, and nobody taught me how to be a collegiate student athlete. So this is where my passion for, like, you have to give out game. You have to
Hmm.
teach people. Like, role models are necessary. So you
Yes.
can hear it in my voice now, because, like, I was failed, and not by my mom, because my mom, she couldn't teach me how to be a collegiate student athlete. She wasn't a collegiate student athlete, right? Like,
Yeah.
she did her part in being there, supporting and all that stuff. My dad failed out of college, right? So, and he was in and out of my life up until a couple years later. So I had a couple AAU coaches that didn't do it either. So
Hmm.
I feel like I was failed, not intentionally, right? Like, everybody did the best that they could. And so it wasn't until I got to this position, and that's why I say amazing coaches. I still talk to all of them to this day. And they're like, this ain't good enough. And I never heard that before. Because in
Mhm.
high school, all you really had to have was
Let's
like
see.
a 2.0, and it was cool.
Maybe
Um,
even a D.
look, and I couldn't even tell you what was what with anything.
Yeah.
And I was a class clown and this and that and thought I was cute and all those different things. So I never got in trouble, but I was like not really engaged in school. And I never had no mentors, nobody be like, yo, you have potential. Let's figure out how we get this joint in line. So I got a lot of hurt, harm, because there's adults who, like, I've seen, like, why didn't nobody, what I'm saying, up to
Yeah.
that point? But it's why I'm so passionate now and know that there'll be a whole lot of people around, and a lot of people doesn't result in you actually getting the game that you need to have in order to get the way, right? So it was with the effort I thought was good enough, out of 1.95. But then the other thing that really changed my life at this point too was our coach did something where she had all the teammates on the team layer, like, what is it, grade everybody basically.
Mhm.
So grade everybody 1 through 15. Who do you think should start? Who would you want to be a captain? Who do you think needs to work harder? So I come into like November, December-ish, before grades are due, before the first semester is over, all of that. And I get both of these report cards essentially in my face. And everybody on the team, almost everybody thought I should work harder. I was ranked probably average 8 or 9. Nobody thought I should be captain, and almost a couple people thought that I should start. Then on my grades wise, I got this 1.95. I'm sitting in my coach's office and she's just like, here's your reality. And I was like, that sucks.
Hard truth.
Like, I'm
Hard pill
seeing
to swallow.
it tough. And I might have cried. I might have just all those different things and was like, this ain't who I was born to be.
Mhm.
And at that point, like I said, I was going to be a firefighter, and I was studying communication, I think, at that point, which a lot of athletes end up just studying because they're like, I don't
Mhm.
know. There's, because we never really fall in love with anything else or
Yeah.
really dive into ourselves to know what else we're interested in. So I go on communication, firefighter, 2 years of school. That's it. And at that conversation, I just remember thinking, mm-mm. Like, I'm not about to allow my mom and my dad for this to be the story. I don't want to be like, I wasn't born to, like, this ain't it. So I said, okay. And literally from that moment on, my life changed like drastically. I became the person who's sitting in front of you today, which is funny, which is why I struggle. And even in this moment, like, I'm disappointed with my effort. Right. So when you ask that question, I'm like, ooh, I don't like the effort that I'm putting out right now, because I
Mhm.
really look at, grades and stats, and I keep track of everything.
Mhm.
What my days, the time I wake up, my habits, my schedule, everything. And if it's looking like, then I gotta own it. Right. So back to that moment at 15, 18 years later, I still keep that same kind of, mentality. So fast forward a little bit, I just dive in. I said, I'm doing every single thing opposite of what I've done before. And I'm just going to turn up the work hard meter. So I started getting up around 4 o'clock. This is at 18, getting up at 4, doing 2, 3 days when it comes to the gym, working a job, going to school, going to tutoring center, writing center, math center, like every single thing, sitting in the front of the class, figuring out how do I not be and everybody else, right? Because when you get to high school or you get to college, you start to see what everybody's life is happening. And this is pre-Instagram. So it's like MySpace, Facebook-ish kind of
Mhm.
time frame. And you're seeing like, ooh, and I'm like, I just don't want to be that. And so I ended up falling in love with personal fitness training. So I ended up losing a bunch of weight, falling in love with working out and all of that stuff. And so that's where I started going. So I ended up getting my AA and personal fitness training. The next year I come in, my coach does that same thing. And everybody thought I should be a starter. Everybody voted me captain. I was number one on everybody's list, and nobody thought I should work harder. So in that moment, and I always like to tell that story because I get it. I was right there on the cusp, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And if I wouldn't have made that decision in that moment, again, I couldn't even tell you where I would imagine I would be now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even want to think about it, especially not when I'm feeling the way I'm feeling right now. Hell no. So um, and then I was like, yo, I got addicted to working hard. I saw the fruit. I was like, if you work hard, your
Mhm.
life can change in a matter less than a year. So for me, I was like, F it, bump it. That's it. I'm diving in and working hard. So when you think of me, you're going to think of follow through, work hard, commitment, dedication, and anything that I say, you're going to see it come to fruition. And that became my new identity. So fast forward, now it's time to transition from a 2 year to a 4 year. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be a firefighter anymore. I really want to dive into personal fitness training. And God kept putting on my heart like youth ministry. And I'm like, youth ministry? What? I don't, and I'm dealing with things in my sexuality, and I'm like, I don't know about that, and just different things. And I'm like, so I end up going to a small private Christian school and majoring in youth ministry. And that turns into more human development, is what I saw that was really behind it, right? So I did youth ministry and psychology, but in it was dope because it was really about how do you help people grow? How do you
Mm.
help people live, specific life? And so by doing youth men in psychology, it allowed me to dive into books. That's when I started reading. I was like, yo, some dope books out here. So I just devoured. I became a reader. I became a great student at that point. So I left my CC with a 3.0. I ended up graduating, cum laude at my 4 year. I went off to get my master's and got a 4.0. I'm about to be a doctor here in a couple weeks. So, I say all that part of my story is because I had to work for it all, right? Like
Yeah.
the effort ended up changing, but also the effort and investment in myself showed me the more I invest in me, I'm going to reveal things about me, which led me into all these other things that I care about. And that's when I was like, I love human development. I love studying the brain and how people grow in confidence and leadership and organizations and all of that stuff. So initially, it just was a love that was poured into and watered, seed and watered by my mom, and a gift from God that then investing in me turned into that. And then became an academic, like, okay, how do I actually become, certified in these areas so that I could be an expert in speaking on these specific things.
Yeah, okay. That's yeah. I can relate with the putting in like minimal effort and
Mhm.
then being somewhat surprised on what you get back. Like,
Yeah.
you reap what you sow. But
Mhm.
you ain't out there you ain't sowing. So what you reaping a whole bunch of nothing. So for me,
Absolutely.
I played sports as well in high school. Me and my brother, and he's like he's 14 months older than me. He was like a natural talent. He's tall, long arms, like natural, pretty good, right? And I had to put a little bit more effort into it, and I got better. But by the time my 12th grade year rolled around, I'm like, I really don't want to do this in college because I have to wake up at 6 a.m. for practice. I was I went to maybe I was barely going to practice on Saturday mornings because I'm like, why do I have to get up early on a Saturday? And no one told me, hey, get up and go to practice. It was just like, oh, if you want to go, you go. If you don't, you don't. And again, it's no one's fault. It's just
Mhm.
they was showing me what they've done, and
Mhm.
again, I'm not blaming anybody, but they can
Yeah.
only give me what they had to give.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't play ball in college because I'm like, why would I have that be the factor in going to college. Like if I miss practice, I could get kicked off the team and I can't go to college. Like no, I just take out student loans.
Mhm.
That's a crazy lazy way of thinking because I could have not had student loans by just playing basketball. But no, I'm like, nope, I'm not doing it. I don't
Mhm.
need them dangling that over my head. Lazy, right? I'm not
Yeah.
gonna say lazy. I'm gonna say no effort. But I didn't know any better.
Mhm.
I didn't have any role models to really show me like work hard, play hard, and your life will get better. I was just like stumbling through life, figuring it out.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until I was what 22, 21 maybe. I'll say about 22 when I came across human development or personal development, and my life changed from there. It was like, wow, all I gotta do is put in more effort, work hard on myself that I do in my job and things will change. And it was like, it, it was from there.
Yeah.
That's the end of the story because before that it was again stumbling through life, trying to figure it out, and knowing that what I was surrounded by isn't what I didn't want my life to look like what they were doing, but what do I do? How do I figure it out? And yeah, it's insane how there's a blueprint out there, but people don't have it. And even growing up, as far as the like the leader part, I was like always super shy, standoffish. As far as my family, like my immediate family, I was a leader then. I'd be like the counsel, like, oh, I don't think they should be on punishment for 3 weeks. Why not 1 week? Like speaking up for my family. But work setting, school setting, I was always super shy. I didn't want to like, don't look at me, don't ask me anything. I wanted to stay under
Mhm.
the radar. But the moment I saw Jim Rohn's is one of his videos on YouTube. I talk about it in every podcast episode. I bring it up. I saw that video, took notes, and my life changed from there. And then I started picking up the books and read more and read more. And I'm like, you telling me I can figure out a better way of living if I read these books and apply it?
Mhm.
But yeah, it was just. But at the beginning, I feel like the leader has always been in me, but I didn't know it was there, and I
Mhm.
didn't have that person to be like, hey, you can do good things. You can make it in life until I started to seek it out. And as I started out, I started to meet people who would believe in me and kind of sort of like guide me in the right direction. Um, but it's insane how like some people naturally have it and some people don't. But
Well,
you can get it.
the naturally have what?
Like the work hard mentality. Like how can I put it? The
Mhm.
mindset of like there is a better way of doing things, but I don't know how to do it. Some people just like living life oblivious, doing whatever, scraping their knees and not trying to get better or find information on how to
Mhm.
live a better life. And there are other people who stumbling through life scraping their knees and thinking like, man, there has been a different way. How do I find a better way of living? How do I better myself? And
Mhm.
when the opportunity presents itself, they're able to grab it and
Mhm.
start to like sow, plant those seeds, water the garden, and bloom from there.
Yeah. See, I think when I hear you say that and I think about bunch of people run through my mind, right,
Mhm.
as you're describing that, and I'm a dissector.
Yeah.
I'm a dissector, I'm a challenger, I'm a researcher, which is, how I became a doctor, and I never would have you would have, 18-year-old me, 20-year-old me, 15-year-old me, you would have said I'd be, Dr. Ariassa Wilson. I'm like, huh? How? Right? I just followed that curiosity of like, I'm really interested on how things work and curious about people. And I consider myself not just a confidence coach, but a human development specialist right at this point. And when I think about the root of it, I see things in this way, right? So I think that people are born with one bag, two bag, five bags. I'll just use that analogy, right? And I'm a two bagger. And there's the parable in the Bible, and I don't remember exactly where it's at right now. It's like one bag, two bag, five bags, right? You got the cats who are born with five bags. What they do, they took their bags, they went out, they doubled it, they
Yep.
went up, right? They got 10 and so on and so. The two bags took the two bags, went out, doubled it, four bags, boom. The person with one bag was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and bury this joint,
Hmm.
and because at least I'm gonna give you your one bag back. That's how I see life and people.
Hmm.
I want to help the one baggers invest in themselves. And I want to help the two baggers. The five baggers, you're cool. You know what you're doing. Rock out, right? Eventually I'll be living life in certain spaces with the five baggers and have that influence and village and that kind of deal. But I'm really here for the two baggers and the one baggers. And I say that in comparison to what you're saying is because I think the ones who just don't know are the one baggers because the way they see themselves, they see all I have is this one bag.
Hmm.
All I have is it depends on what you want to say. Um Broski, Joyner Lucas's new video that just came out. There's a line where Broski is saying like, not everybody can be as talented as you. Not everybody can do da 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 da. Right, and saying all these different things and being able, and it's obviously coming from his like the hater side of him, right,
Yeah.
the envious side of him, and that to me is him seeing himself as a one bagger versus seeing himself as a two bagger. And the reason why I say that is because I believe I'm firmly convinced, and can't nobody ever tell me otherwise, that everybody was born with a purpose, on purpose to live out their purpose. If you have a purpose, that means you have gifts and talents that will help you live out that purpose.
Hmm.
Period. So now what we're talking about is a mindset change. So if my mindset sees me as the bag, which means that my purpose is my greatest asset and my mindset is the tool that allows me to leverage and build out and live out my purpose, it shifts everything. So I may have been born a one bagger, but my mindset made me a two bagger. Then I saw that I invested in me, which means investing in my gifts and talents. Now I went from two bags to four. You can't tell me nothing. I just saw that my hard work. Now I went from four to six, you four to eight. Now I'm sitting here with 20 and I started with two. What are we talking about? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And all I was one bag away, excuse me, from the person with one. I don't even have to worry about the cat with five because that don't have nothing to do with me. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So I think that that is like a little kid saying that's not fair. You're right. Life ain't fair. So the sooner that I could be cool with life not being fair and be present in my position with where I'm at and what I've got going on and saying, okay, how do I flip these bags?
Yeah.
In the blueprint is there literally is no way around putting in the work. I am not satisfied if I'm just gifted something off of whatever, unless it's a gift, right? But like,
Mhm.
I don't want to be handed anything. I fell in love with hard work and saw the rewards from it and was like, oh, shoot, that's the only way. Where some cats, right, may have been born in a five bag family, but just because we didn't even hear the rest of the story, just because they was born with five bags doesn't mean they kept the 10, because research now shows us that the second generation, 70% of second generation generational wealth cats lose it. And
Mhm.
then like 90% lose it in the third. So some of them cats may have had that five, that 10, that 15, and boom, now it's gone.
Mhm. I
Yeah.
appreciate, like you say, the bags. Maybe I was had one initially, or maybe two. Either way it go, I
Mhm,
appreciate not having five because I was forced
mhm,
to identify what am I doing wrong, what do
mhm,
I need to be doing, and how can I do it faster and better.
mhm,
Like
mhm,
basically just look in the mirror.
mhm, mhm,
Because again, why would I focus on a person with five bags? And this
mhm,
is a conversation that I will have well, other people that I know, they're like, oh, well, some people, there's like less fortunate or not less fortunate, but on a different level. And I'm
mhm,
like, okay, we all are. At some point, we're all on a lower level on to some degree.
mhm.
But if you work hard or develop yourself, things will change. And
Mhm.
like I will down the hill. I'm like, developing yourself, your life will change
Yeah,
emotionally, spiritually, physically, either way go, your life will change. And some people will
yeah.
still be like, well, no, because some people, I'm like, I don't want, okay, we don't even have
Well,
to have
here's
this
here's the
conversation.
thing I'll say to that too. The other part of my mind who has worked with low income, first generation, low socioeconomic poverty, like it's not only a destination, but it's also a mindset. Like if
Mhm.
you're stuck in survival mode, you can't think like we're thinking. And that's why I try to be very specific on who it is that I'm talking about. Right? If you are in a certain, because there's a certain, not just necessarily tax bracket, but if you're in privilege, privilege is the key, right? Like I had the privilege to be one already an affluent African American. Like
Mhm.
I've never hurt for a meal or a place to stay. So I'm
Mhm.
automatically in a different sector, automatically thinking different from somebody who's had to. My sisters, right? Like I've got family who has been in survival mode their whole life. So if somebody's in survival mode, it's almost the same as I like to say mental health privilege. So we have to be, and I'm gonna make sure that I will always be very clear on who it is I'm talking to, what it is I'm talking about, because there are people who do not have the privilege to invest in themselves, whether it is read a book, because knowledge doesn't change behavior,
Yeah.
right? Like wisdom is a result of change behavior. So just
Mhm.
because somebody reads a book doesn't mean that they have the space, the capacity, the wherewithal. And again, the more I've learned about the brain, the more I've had to humble my thought process, because there's a lot of gurus and white dudes out there like, all you got to do is that's not all you got to do. Because
Yeah.
if I don't know where I'm about to eat and sleep, I'm not living in a psychologically safe space. I don't even know all these different things. I'm recovering from trauma. I'm holding on to this, that, and the third. Reading a book and watching a TikTok ain't doing nothing for me. Right.
Yeah.
And that's where I like to make sure I'm as clear and level headed and understanding both sides as I can. If you're
Mhm.
here though, now I'm coming for you,
Yeah.
right? Now it's a different story. But if you're still dealing with certain things, you're in a psychologically unsafe space, you're dealing with mental illness, you have a lack of certain privileges, there's not affluence there. I'm not even, you do what you got to do to be safe and get stable and build a foundation.
Yeah.
You over here, now we're rocking and I'm coming at you like a coach. So I just like to make sure I'm clear on that piece too, because not everybody has the privilege and the world will continue to look the way it looks and the gap will continue to grow bigger,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah, that makes sense. So for myself, and what you just said, it makes total sense. I do need to be aware and cognizant of those privileges. But for myself, as an adult, I have never dealt with that. But as a
Mm,
kid growing up, teenage years, I've dealt with those things.
mm,
So that's why I'm just like, okay, I understand these are solid reasons, but what are you gonna do about it? Solid reasons. Because if I'm always like, well, I can't do XYZ because I worked long hours or whatever. I had two jobs. I mean, make some kind of sacrifice. Like you can make a temporary sacrifice to have a better outcome, or
mm,
just keep letting these huge reasons hold you back.
mm,
But I come from it. I look at it from a different point of view for that reason, because I know what it's like
mm,
growing up.
mm,
Lights
mm,
out, what we're gonna eat, where we gonna be at, staying in the
yeah,
hotel, like all types of craziness.
yeah,
But I was talking to this guy named Coach Nkrumah, and I'm gonna release the episode. I think this Sunday coming up. What's July 10th? No, 9th. Whatever this Sunday is coming up
nice.
is.
Yeah.
Today is the 5th. And we're talking about how for myself, my ambition came from trauma. So I was
Mm,
so ambitious because I was like trauma running, just running back, running away. Like I don't want to be poor. I don't want to experience poverty again. I don't want to
mm,
experience not having a meal or lights out, like all these things I had growing up. But once I got to a different level in life, it's like my ambition kind of started to like fade away a little bit. And I had to understand that I was ambitious from trauma. But once I was able to like find a new reason, a new purpose, then my purpose pulled me. So
mm,
I'm back ambitious, but I'm not ambitious for my trauma.
mm,
So,
mhm,
and as far as like mental health stuff, it for me, once I worked on my mental health, again, it puts me at a different spot because I addressed it. Again, like I'm all this ambition, and then I'm like, oh, why am
mm,
I constantly hitting these roadblocks? Well, Brittany, you need to work on this trauma. You need to work on your mental health.
mm,
You know, if these certain things always happen, every month, every other month, what's going on? What are those? Where are those triggers coming from?
yeah.
But again, I'm not a doctor. You know, I don't have the certifications to dig deep into that. I'm just speaking from my own experiences.
Yeah. To
But
your point, what you just explained is what everybody deserves,
mhm,
right? So if I have the, or anybody, when you have the ability, the privilege, the wherewithal, the resources to address your trauma, you increase your capacity to live out your purpose,
yeah,
right? Like, again, I believe everybody was born with purpose, on purpose to live out their purpose.
mhm,
Everybody's going to also go through something. Our body keeps a score, our brain keeps a score. The more trauma I go through, the more the capacity, right, I'm almost filled up with, right? So my capacity is up to here. The
mhm,
only thing that I have capacity for is the ability to go to work because my mind is in survival mode. So if I'm
mhm,
in survival mode, I only have the capacity to go to work. Why? Because when I work, I get money. And when I get money, I have food and my rent is paid. Cool. That's all I have the capacity for. So now you want me to go to therapy for $150, $175 an hour? What is that? That's food, that's bills, that's rent, da da da, right?
mhm,
There's that piece. So when we make, and this is bigger than what I really want to, right, than what I'm sure our direction is, but like when healthcare from a sense of people being able to talk about their trauma, when I can talk about my trauma, because what sucks is I think it's fibromyalgia is a condition, a disease that some people end up getting. And literally, if you look into the cure of it, it's basically like a lot of people are sensitive to the touch.
yeah,
So some people have so much trauma built into their body, their capacity is mad low that they're sensitive to touch and it hurts so bad because they've held so tight onto the trauma. Their nervous system is like about to bust. The
mhm,
thing about that, the only cure, rest. relaxation, lack of stress, level 2 and 3 stress, and talk therapy.
Mhm.
So when I have the ability to talk about what the heck it is that I've got going on, what I've been through, I feel safe psychologically, transparency, vulnerability, all those things get to show up. My trauma is now taking up less space in my body. Now my brain is starting to operate on another level. Now I'm healing myself internally. So trauma decreases. Now look at the capacity. Now I can think different. Now I can make better decisions. Now I can execute different. Now I can see myself in another light. Now self actualization starts to come to fruition because I feel safer in another way. Now
Mhm.
that that happens, trauma's decreasing. Look at the much capacity that I have to be able to, like, wow, look at all these other gifts and talents that I have. That's not necessarily about money making. It's just hobbies and enjoying life on another level.
Yeah.
So the fact that you were able to take care of your mental health, this is why mental health, mental performance, and all that stuff is so important, because it increases people's capacity to live out their life on another level, to live out their purpose. And so whether that's that one bagger who sees, I got to invest in this way and I got to take care of me first, goes back to what I said at the very beginning. Like, you have to invest in you first if you're going to be able to live out, your purpose with confidence, but also be able to pour into other people.
Yeah. Even with that part, therapy is pretty expensive, but there are like some sliding scales. Like if you go online, there could be, they could people could find resources out there that has a sliding scale or may even do pro bono.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I know for me, before I even started going to therapy, affirmations, the way I talk to myself,
Mm.
once I started to talk to myself differently,
Yeah.
I looked at myself differently, and I'm like, okay, maybe I should go to therapy. Maybe I do deserve something. Maybe
Mm.
I am holding myself back from my full potential. But again, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a doctor. Just
Yeah.
my own experiences.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
though the way we talk to ourselves can
100%.
help as well to lessen the mental load. Or
Mhm.
if I have a cup of water and it's filled to the top, it's just say it's not a cup of water, but if I have a cup and it's filled to the top, it's all stress. But if I'm, being kinder and more gentle with myself,
Mhm.
like it's like pouring out the
Yeah.
stressful liquid, making space
Yeah.
um for a creative part.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
but I was thinking something you were talking and I was gonna ask you a question about it, but I'm having a brain fart. I just forgot what it was. But oh, so you said you had a long day today, rough day. Like what's going on?
No, not a longer rough day. Shoot, it's only 12 o'clock, so not a long day. More so just really at the end of every quarter, beginning of next quarter, I like to take personal retreats just to sit and really like look and feel as how have I been over the last quarter? Did I meet certain expectations? Did I achieve what I wanted to achieve? Because again, for somebody like myself, my standards are high for how I live on a daily basis. And because my standards are so high, I have to be very careful on, am I dehumanizing myself? And I say dehumanizing in the sense of like, am I trying to say I'm above and beyond certain things? So I really have to look at, what am I carrying right now? Am I overlooking certain things that are human and that deserve more grace and patience, right?
Hmm.
So even this conversation, like, I'm thoroughly enjoying it because I'm talking to me. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking to me, but I'm also talking to somebody else in a way where they're like, okay, right? Like, I'm really just getting back in that space of communication and how valuable and transparent and transparency and vulnerability and all that stuff it is. And the more what you just said about self-talk, essentially, right, is what we call it.
Hmm.
Self-talk is a skill. It's a skill. And again, I keep talking about the brain because um of the more I learn about it, the more I learn how much we don't know about it.
Hmm.
And we learn about it in science, right? We look at frog brains or hearts or something like that. But that doesn't really tell us anything about ours. And so we fool around as humans and get really upset at ourselves for not being able to do something, but not realizing we're not able to do something because of all these other factors. So when I say self-talk is a skill, if your brain literally does not have the space, ability, capacity to execute that thing, it don't matter, right? And then from an affirmation space, if I look at myself and I'm like, I'm beautiful, but if I don't believe it, now there's something called cognitive dissonance. if my soul and my spirit and my feelings don't align with what my mouth is saying, it's not going to change. It's not going to mean anything. Right. And so this is why I talk about my mission is to fuse research and culture.
Mhm.
Right. Like, whatever, how do I fuse it and spit it out in a way that's going to make sense to a lot of cats who really much kind of look like me, rock out like me, live life like me, but I'm bringing research to you. So
Yes.
cognitive dissonance is like, I'm beautiful, I don't believe it, it's not changing anything.
So you don't think if a person just say for 30 days straight,
Mm-hmm,
the same time, like twice a day,
mm-hmm,
they say like, a few affirmations like I'm beautiful, I'm smart, like
hmm.
just,
Yeah,
kind self-talk affirmations. They
yeah,
do it for 30 days. You don't
yeah.
think they eventually that person will start to believe it? Even if initially the first maybe 1 or 2 days they say it, they like they feel like they don't believe it, but after 30
Mhm.
days you still think that they
Well,
don't believe it?
you just said two different things. You said they started to believe it. All you have to believe it. So if I'm saying it over and over, but I don't believe it, that's where the cognitive is, and it's not me, it's literally it's the way our body works,
And
right?
I'm saying after 30 days, I feel like
So
I
that
think
would be an
they'll believe
experiment,
it.
right?
That
So that would be an experiment to say, okay, somebody who doesn't currently think you're beautiful, doesn't think you're worthy, doesn't think all these different things, right?
yeah.
Start there, now say all these sayings. I think, and there's been research done, right? The part is, what else are they doing to get themselves to believe it? Because if I'm just saying it, this is where the action comes into place.
Yeah, I was gonna say
You have
action.
to take some type of action. You can't just say, I'm beautiful, and then go live my life. Because if the rest of your self talk, imposter syndrome, self doubt, lack of self efficacy, if all of that for the next 15 hours goes against you believing you're beautiful, that one saying of I'm beautiful ain't it, there's not enough weight to it. So
Yeah.
now not only does this person have to say I'm beautiful, I say don't fake it till you make it, be it, and then they'll see it. So not only am I beautiful, now I got to do, what does the beautiful me really look like? What's my definition of beautiful? What does it feel like for me to feel like I'm beautiful? Is it, do I wear perfume? Okay, cool. Ooh, so that reminds my senses that I'm beautiful. Is it wearing earrings and a necklace? Is it making sure my hair, like, what are the things that beautiful me does? Now I need to do those things. That's my action. And now I can start to think different, because you have to train your brain to be in alignment and your soul to be in alignment with what it is you're saying. You can't just say it. You have to make your actions be in alignment, because if not, you're gonna have a lack of integrity. So then
Yeah.
now, if your soul and your feelings are all over the place, you're gonna come back to the mirror, and by the end of the 30 days, you're gonna be like, you ain't even gonna want to look at yourself. You know how hard it is for some people to even look at themselves in the mirror? So for somebody who doesn't believe they're beautiful, they may not even be able to look at themselves and say it for the first 10 days.
Mhm.
So, do I think by the end of 30 days? It depends on the person. It depends on how they think about themselves outside of their beauty. It depends on what their day to day lifestyle looks like, if they're living a life that they want. And that's what I really want to a lot of my message to be, is being better and being your best self is hard, which is why when you say, how am I? I'm struggling. And I'm a confidence coach. That don't mean all my work is out the window. That means that I'm human in today, in this moment. I came in here struggling, because that just is what it is. But people also need to know that it's not as easy as saying an affirmation. There's
Mhm.
work. It's not as easy as just saying I'm going to manifest whatever. You have to put in action, right? Like the seed is one part. Then you have to water it. That's the action in order to see it come to fruition. That's the
Mhm.
time and the patience. So that's the thing about being humans. That's the thing about grace and patience and love, is if you don't put in the work behind it in all aspects, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, right? All of that, it's not going to matter.
I'm glad you broke down the action part of it, for our listeners. Because yeah, affirmations, oh, I'm beautiful, whatever. But what does beautiful you look like? What do you wear? What do you smell like? What do you look like? What do you do on a day to day basis? What are your hobbies? Breaking it down, so people can get like the full picture of it. And it is hard work, especially how the more you grow, the more you, for me myself, as I've grown as a person, there's been like bigger obstacles that I have to overcome, because now I'm able, instead of me taking on the same small obstacle, if I see there's another obstacle, in my path, of course it's going to be bigger than the one I just passed, because now I'm expanding as a person. So I have
Mhm.
more, I'm taking up more space. And it's like, man, another one, you have a few months of like chill, things going okay. And then boom, all right, another problem to solve. Like, now I got to figure out how to navigate this new problem, find a new solution for this. And as far as like struggling, I mean, we talked, what, 2 months ago, a month ago about, yeah, my life look different now, going
Mhm.
from one kid to four total, ages 8, 5, and 3, and my 4-year old. So it's like the things that worked for me before doesn't work anymore. I have to change it up, do things differently. I can't just go to bed at 7 or 8 o'clock and then wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning. Some days I can, but overall, how stretched do I want to be if I wake up at 4 in the morning
Mhm.
and doing all this stuff, get them ready, take care of them throughout the day, whatever. In the evening time, have family time. When they go to bed, have time with my wife. Now it's like 11 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at no. So it's like changing up the schedule, prioritizing
Mhm.
myself and the things I need to do.
Yeah.
But again, as developing as a person, I can identify, okay, what worked before doesn't work anymore. How can I
Mhm.
change that up?
Mhm.
But yeah, it is hard work, but it's worth it. Definitely worth it.
Mhm.
Definitely worth it. Uh,
100%. 100%. And that's the thing is getting better is hard, but people don't want to hear it because like you just said about yourself a minute ago about being lazy,
mhm.
right? Is like, do I think the average person is lazy? I that word in and of itself has been used to weaponize us as black folks, so I don't really want to just say yes, but I think that life in and of itself is so hard that it's taken up a lot of people's capacity and energy, that if I'm not doing things to create another level of capacity and energy, I'm not going to be able to do the extra. And I
Yeah.
think that's the part that, like, waking up at 4 is hard as hell. It's hard. It's hard. And but the other part is being able to invest in myself personally. It's hard being able to invest in my queen as my partner is hard and easy. I mean, I love doing it, but it's still making it not hard, right? And then being able to be present as a parent, I love doing it, but it doesn't mean it's not hard,
Mhm.
right? So those are like my three P's: personal, partner, and parent. And being able to invest in all those things, and then being an entrepreneur, you can put that somewhere. It's always going to be hard. There's always going to be give and take. There's always going to be opposition. There's always going to be, right, because that's just how life works. So the
Mhm.
sooner that we're able to create a little bit of capacity in our mindset that allows us to be okay with life not being fair, knowing there's always going to be opposition, and knowing I have to work hard and be patient, okay, then I can commit to the lifestyle. But unless you're ready to accept those things, then your life will continue to look kind of the way that it is. And you're the one that has to choose to have peace with that.
Mhm.
That's what it is about. If you have peace, cool. I could care less because you're not living out your purpose unless you have peace. Like you talked about, right? You were chasing it from a sense of trauma, which a lot of people do when they got a chip on their shoulder and they're holding grudges and all that other stuff. Like, but do you have peace? If you're saying you're beautiful, but you don't have peace, it doesn't matter because you can't
Yeah.
buy peace. Money don't buy peace. Money doesn't satisfy your soul in that way, right? It enhances your lifestyle, but it doesn't satisfy your soul in your relationships, right? And so that's where I'm talking about. Let's really get to the foundational level of what does it mean to be people who are living out their purpose with peace. And I think purpose is connected to people and profit. And then really having peace with your journey and living in joy.
So with your coaching program, do you do one-on-one coaching? Do you do like group coaching? I know you go and speak at schools and
Mhm,
colleges. You speak your
mhm,
keynote speakers and stuff like that.
mhm.
So what does your coaching program look like? And
Yeah.
what do you what's your when you do have a client? Do y'all like I know I'm sure it's not cookie cutter,
Yeah.
but what's your main goal when you're working with a person?
Transformation. So like I only work with folks who are ready to change and grow and be transformed. If you're not ready to be transformed, it ain't worth my time.
Hmm.
Period. So you have to commit to a minimum of 6 sessions within a quarter. So if you want to go every week, cool, but we need to be going at least every other week. And then obviously there's a cost to that. And but you have to be ready to be transformed.
Mhm.
If you're not ready to really grow and be transformed, then like I said, it's not it's a waste of time. I don't care how much you're paying me. Like it ain't worth me wasting my time. So when somebody comes in, it's all about them. It's not about me.
Mhm.
Like I'm not, I don't have a goal. I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna make sure I'm getting better. So when I'm listening and I'm hearing and I'm assessing and you're telling me what you want, because that's ultimately what it's about, is what do you want? You have to have peace with your life. And my job is to help you gain clarity and confidence.
Mhm.
Cool. So let's gain clarity over what it is that we want. Let's figure out how we get what we want to get. And then how do I help you develop the confidence to be able to execute on that? That's my job. So for every person, it looks different. And I only work with people I like being in space with. If I don't like being in space with you, I'm not doing it because I don't need the money that bad. I
Yeah.
don't want it that bad. And if you suck as a person, you're not fun and you drain me, I'm not working with you. I need to leave the conversation be like, wow, I really like inspired, engaged to want to help you more, to want to grow. Like I want to be able to want to work with you for free.
Yeah.
Like that's where I'm at. Like I got a client right now that I was like, yo, I was thinking about her, and we literally went to text each other at the same time.
Mhm.
And I usually call them MVPs, but she was like, yo, and I was like, yo, I was just about to hit you. I got some stuff for you. Boom. Like that's how I want it to be. If I don't want to like, and that comes from for me as a coach, like I coached hoop. And it's the same way, like getting in the gym with a player who wants to get better. Every single hoop or athletic coach will tell you there's nothing better because we coach the game that we love. And if I learn something that's going to help enhance your game, I want to get in it. And then you're hungry getting in it, and we're both hungry. Oh my gosh, I'm getting goosebumps right now because there's nothing better. So for me, when I'm in a coaching session, I don't care whether we're in person or we're in Zoom, like we got to be, and I'm not a therapist.
Yeah.
So you don't come to me and throw up.
No,
I'm
no, no.
not I'm not a therapist. Could I go get the credentials? Yeah, but I don't that doesn't bring me joy.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like getting better brings me joy. Getting in with you, diving in, we're talking, we're this. Here's where I want to go. Here's the vision. I don't know what the vision is. Here's this. Cool. We go and we'll make it happen, right? So initially there's always an assessment. I got to know where you're at. I got to know where you're going. And we talk about, right, your morals, your values, your character. What's your vision for your life? What's your mission for your life? Where are we at when it comes to confidence and self-efficacy and personal efficacy? All these different, things, imposter syndrome, emotional intelligence, emotional confidence, like we get after it. So it's
Yeah.
broken down from mental performance, personal development, and craft excellence. So it really just depends, on the person. But again, I'm not a therapist. I'm not here for you to throw up. And there's been times I've had to do that, and I'm like, this don't feel good. So I've had to be more precise with who it is that I'm working with because I'm an entrepreneur, which means I get to pick and choose what I do. And it's not all about the money for me. And I've had times where I've worked with people and they used me as their therapist. And because I have the background,
Mhm.
right? Like I get it. I'm a good listener and I can do this and that, but I'm not here for you to throw up for an hour. That's just not, that ain't it. But if you're trying to get better, let's get in the gym and let's get better. And if you
Yeah.
can't afford my services, you don't know if you can or can't, but if you think that you can't, cool. I'm on TikTok every day. I'm on Instagram every day. I got a podcast that drops every week. You know what I'm saying? Like it's called practice. So there's ways you can send me a DM. Like I'm accessible. So
Mhm.
there's different ways that you can interact with me for no money, but again, that'll only get you however far you want to. So, yes, from a one-on-one space, group coaching, organizations really, like if there's an org that wants their group coached more training wise on a specific area. But if there's, I guess I haven't really done group coaching in a non-organizational setting. Like if a bunch of friends wanted to rock out, sure, I'm with it. If a bunch of entrepreneurs came together, like absolutely, let's get it. The mission don't change. You know what I'm saying? Like the
Yeah.
energy doesn't change. You put somebody in front of me, we gonna get after it.
Yeah. When you say you're not a therapist, I look at it like a therapist is a person who helps you unpack, past stuff or unpack, hard things that's going on right now. But a coach is someone that's gonna like, all right, where's your goal? how can I help mold you to get there? How can I help you get clarity to get to, get to your the finish line or whatever?
Mhm, mhm,
It's not
mhm.
unpacking about what happened when you was 10,
Yeah, no,
15, last week. Like, no, it's
yeah,
about
yeah.
forward movement.
Well, some people do see me as therapy. And I tell people too, it's going to seem therapy like, because we're talking about you and things may come up. And I understand how the brain works in trauma and different things like that. But if something comes up, I'll say, cool, write that down. And if they're in therapy, take that to your therapist next week
Yeah.
so you guys can get to the root of that. And then we'll talk about the other side. So the same way I talked about creating capacity for mental performance is you being able to work with a therapist to help that mental health and the trauma in the root, because I'm going to help on that upward mobility movement, which is the mental performance, personal development, and craft excellence.
Yeah.
So if there's no space for me to operate, like I've worked with cats, didn't have space. You didn't have space for me to operate. So there's no point in us trying to do work together. So
Hmm.
that's, you have to give the therapist to help create capacity so I can come in and fill up the rest of it. But if you're already filled, there's nowhere for me to go. I'm just spitting gems and they're landing nowhere because you don't have the capacity for it. But again, it does feel therapy like for some people cry. And I've had, MVPs cry in every session, all sessions, because I'm talking to you, right?
Hmm.
I'm encouraging you, I'm empowering you, I'm lifting you up. I'm giving you the game. And you're like, so there's tears. I'm here for it. Let's go. Let's grow. Like this ain't gonna, the same way I'm being authentic and vulnerable here is the
Hmm.
same way I'm gonna be in the session. I'm gonna give them all of me and they give it back and we get after it.
It sound like a real coach too. A real coach.
That's it. That's all I know. That's all I know, right? Is being a coach. I was born to do it. I was a college head coach at the age of 25 and did that for 4 some years. I was college coach for 7 years and been coaching, like I said, since I was, so I'm a coach. I have a master's in coaching. Like that's what I do, right? It
Yeah.
just went from the game of basketball to people.
Yeah.
So that same energy is it. Now obviously I'm soft from a listening stance and here, and I'm not always here, but if I'm talking about my craft and what I do, absolutely. Like that's what I do. That's who I am.
So, for my listeners, my viewers, what's one thing you would like to leave them with, like a gem, like a perfect gem you would like to leave them with?
You're worthy of investing in yourself. I think this is, and I can honestly say this has been one of my favorite conversations, because I think you asked right questions in the midst of what I was saying that helped pull the best out of me in this moment. And I think the foundation of it, though, is really you're worthy of investing in yourself. What does that mean? That means do what you got to do to create capacity, right? So if it's getting on apps that allow you, I started therapy on a one of those text based things.
Hmm.
I for Talkspace. I started on that. I don't want to spend a bunch of money. I want to spend $60 and just try to get my feet wet. So if you got 50, $60, really take a step back and look at your finances. Where could you find $60 at? Where can you take from somewhere else to invest into you? Cool. Now you could have that conversation with somebody. And I don't know what it's like now, but I was having a convo with somebody for maybe $60 and it was five times a week she was available. Cool. But you have to create the capacity. And that's where, if investing in yourself right now looks like that, I love it. To create the capacity to move on to do something else, because you are born with the purpose, on purpose, live out your purpose. But if you don't have the capacity to do it, it's not going to matter. So you have to be healthy enough, right? You have to have um, the energy, the time, the wherewithal, because once we transition to another level, now we're talking about decision making, decision fatigue, burnout. How do we increase our capacity that much more, and energy, living it like so? There's this life is meant to be lived, and you got to be healthy to do it. So that's what I would say.
All facts. All facts. The capacity, and because that's where, like, a lot of people, they have so much potential, but they don't have the capacity to receive anything more. Like like my
Mhm.
podcast called Room for It. You got to have room for it, room for whatever it is you want to receive. You got to have room for it. Um, So, where can my viewers and listeners find you? Website,
Yeah,
TikTok, social media, whatever, email.
yeah. You can hit me up on IG. My personal IG is Coach Rees, like you see down here, like Reese Pieces, but sweeter. No E at the end. So Coach REES 1, the number one. That's my personal IG. My business IG is YOUISH coaching. And that's, I would follow both. My personal one, you get to see me behind the scenes, my personal life, things I'm doing. I love to travel, eat, kick it, hang out with my family, things like that. The business one, you're going to get, keep up with what I got going on that way. TikTok is where you got a modge podge of everything. So that's at Coach Rees 1. My podcast drops weekly. That's Practice the Podcast with Coach Rees. And then I got another segment coming out called Winning and Money Ain't Everything. That's where we're talking about leadership development. We're talking about money, entrepreneurship, all the breakdown on that. Hit me up on all those spaces. There's a link in bio that has the email. You can create a session, do any of those things. But that's the best way to get after me. Send me a DM. Let me know you came from the Room for It podcast. So that way we can make sure we're showing love to Brittany. And that's it. Hit me up. Let's grow.
I'll make sure I put your information in the show notes so they can just.
Word.
After you were telling me like saying where they can find you, I'm like I can just put in the show notes. They can click on the link and go directly to your pages.
Yeah, it's all good to hear it though. Yep.
All right, cool. All right, so again, thank y'all, Brittany. We're closing this thing out. Thank you, Coach Rees, and hopefully we can have you on here again. Down the road. Tell us how you doing.
Absolutely. Thank you again for having me, and thanks for the challenging conversation.
I appreciate it.